Obiora moved to Lagos 2 years ago with a small bag and a heart full of hope. He worked as a bricklayer, strong, fast, reliable. But one accident at a construction site changed everything. A falling block landed on his leg, shattering it. The site manager, he disappeared. The company, they denied him. And the small savings he had, used it all on painkillers and food. Within weeks, he was out on the street. Now, every night, he wandered through the streets looking for where to lay his head. Some nights it was an abandoned kiosk, other nights behind Danfo buses. But this one particular night, this night changed his story forever. That evening, it was raining. The type of rain that soaks you in 2 seconds. Obiora had nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. His bad leg was stiff from the cold. He dragged himself into a quiet street he'd never entered before. There, he saw a compound. Small, old, but neat. He pushed the rusty gate slowly. Didn't even make noise. There was no light in the compound, just one single bungalow and flowers growing around the veranda. The curtain was open, and inside, he saw a woman, sitting alone, eating slowly. Her eyes were open, but they didn't move, and that's when he noticed she was blind. She didn't react when he stepped on the dried leaves. She didn't flinch when the wooden chair outside creaked. She just kept eating, using her fingers to feel the edge of her plate. Obiora's heart started racing. "Should I knock?" he whispered to himself. "No, she's blind. Maybe she's also deaf. If I just stay outside her compound, behind the wall, I fit rest small before security come." So he laid down quietly beside the wall and closed his eyes. But sleep didn't come, not with hunger biting his stomach like fire ants, not with the sound of that woman inside, humming a quiet song. Then something strange happened. She opened her door and stepped outside with a small plate. "Hello?" she said softly, facing the air. Obiora froze. "I made extra rice. I can't eat it all. I know someone is out here. Please, don't be afraid. Just take the food. I won't ask questions." He stayed frozen, like a thief caught in spiritual chains. "I've been blind for 18 years, but I'm not stupid," she added with a small smile. "Rain doesn't fall without sound. You stepped on dry leaves, and I heard your breathing." Obiora swallowed hard. Then, slowly, like a scared animal, he stepped forward, limping. The woman didn't look at him. She just stretched the plate forward and placed it on the small bench outside her door. "Take it! You sound hungry." Obiora picked the plate, still silent. The aroma of warm rice and beans hit his nose. Tears filled his eyes. "Thank you," he whispered. The woman smiled gently, then turned around and walked back inside. That night, Obiora ate the food like it was his first meal in months. And when he was done, he crawled behind a stack of broken flower pots beside the house and slept like a baby. But what he didn't know was that moment of kindness would lead him to something deeper, something dangerous, something emotional. Because from that night on, he started living in her house, secretly, and she never knew, or did she? The next morning, birds were chirping lightly, and the sun broke through the early clouds. Obiora opened his eyes slowly, confused at first. Then it hit him. He had spent the night inside a stranger's compound. The woman was blind. She gave him food, she heard him breathing, and now he was still there. "Chai, what nai do?" he muttered, stretching his stiff leg and groaning softly. His body was sore, but the rice and beans from the night before had given him new strength. He peeked around the house cautiously. The woman was inside, sitting in the same spot, knitting what looked like a small sweater. The radio beside her was playing a gospel song quietly. No one else was in the compound. No dog, no house help, no husband, just her. That's when Obiora got an idea. A crazy one. "Wetin if I just stay hide for here small," he whispered to himself. "She no dey see, and I fit help around without her knowing. Sweep, wash, repair small things. If it be like thank you." That was how it started. Every night after she went to bed, Obiora would sneak around. He swept the compound quietly, picked dry leaves, cleaned cobwebs, even washed her buckets and watering can. And every morning he would hide again before sunrise, behind the flower pots, under the stairs, anywhere. Days turned into weeks, and every night she left him food on that same bench without asking questions. "I made beans tonight. Hope you like it. There's bread and tea on the tray today. Careful, it's hot. I don't know your name, but thank you for cleaning the compound. I can feel it." Obiora couldn't believe it. No one had ever been this kind to him, not even when he had 2 working legs and a clean shirt. One night, while it was raining again, he stayed longer under the shade. He watched her quietly through the open curtain. She was talking to someone on the phone. "No, I'm fine, Auntie," she said. "Yes, I'm still alone. I don't want anyone staying with me. I can manage. God is watching me." Obiora swallowed hard. Her name was Mama Ifeoma, he later learned. She used to be a school teacher. She went blind after an illness. Some said it was untreated glaucoma. Others said it was spiritual. But what everyone agreed was that she had no husband, no children, and she refused to move in with relatives. Still, she smiled, she sang, she laughed alone. And that made Obiora feel something new. Hope. One night, he did something bold. He fixed her broken kitchen tap. She had been struggling with it for weeks, always turning and turning it until water sprayed everywhere. So while she was asleep, Obiora removed the faulty head and tightened the pipe with an old spanner he found. When she woke the next morning, she turned it, and water flowed quietly. She smiled. "This tap must have repented last night. God bless whoever touched it." She laughed to herself. Obiora laughed too from behind the wall, covering his mouth so she wouldn't hear. But the deeper Obiora got into his secret living, the harder it became to remain invisible. One afternoon, she came out with a stick, looking worried. "Hello," she called out, turning her ear slightly. "Are you still here? You haven't eaten the food from last night, and I noticed the clothesline is fixed. Did you do that too?" Obiora held his breath. "I don't know who you are. I don't even know if you're a man or a woman, but thank you. I'm not afraid of you. I wish I could say thank you to your face." Obiora wanted to speak. His lips trembled. He wanted to say, "My name is Obiora. I'm the one. I've been living here. I'm sorry." But he didn't. Instead, he cried silently, biting his fingers to hold back the sobs. Then, one day, everything changed. It started with a loud knock. "Bo, bo, bo, bo!" 4 hard bangs on the gate. Obiora jumped from behind the water tank. Mama Ifeoma was startled. "Who is that?" she shouted. "Madam, Nanepa people, we come check your meter." She frowned. "I don't have a prepaid meter. Please come back another day." But the voices outside didn't leave. They whispered to each other, giggling. Obiora crawled slowly to peek through a crack in the fence. 3 men, not from Nipa. They wore slippers, dirty jeans, and held a big wrench. One of them brought out a screwdriver. They weren't Nipa. They were thieves. Obiora's heartbeat doubled. He limped back behind the house and picked up the rusted cutlass he had found days ago while cleaning. He didn't have a plan. He didn't have a strong leg, but he had to protect her. As the first man scaled the gate, Obiora waited. Silent. Focused. His breath shallow. "I swear, say this woman no get anybody. We go finish him quick. The moment the man dropped into the compound, Obiora jumped from the shadows. "Wettin' you dey find?" he roared, swinging the cutlass. "Jesus!" the man screamed, falling backward. The others outside heard and ran. The one inside tried to fight back, but Obiora swung again, this time missing on purpose, just to scare him. The thief screamed louder and leapt back over the gate, scraping his shirt on the rusted edges. Mama Ifeoma was screaming from the veranda, holding her stick in confusion. "Who is there? What is happening? Somebody talk to me!" Obiora ran back behind the tank, heart pounding, chest heavy. He couldn't breathe. But for the first time in weeks, he felt alive and safe and needed. But that was also the night Mama Ifeoma began to suspect. There was someone living in her house, and she was no longer afraid. In fact, she wanted to know who he was. You can hide from the world. You can even hide from yourself. But one thing you can never hide for too long is the truth. That night, after Obiora chased the thieves away, he didn't sleep. He sat under the stairs with his heart racing. His shirt was soaked with sweat, his hands were shaking, and his breathing was loud and rough. "I almost die tonight," he whispered, rocking himself gently, "but I for die protecting her." The next morning, things felt different. For the first time in a long time, Mama Ifeoma didn't just come out quietly to drop food on the bench. She stood by the door for a long time, listening. Then she spoke. "I know you're there," she said gently, "and I know it was you last night." Obiora froze. "Please come inside," she continued. "You've been hiding long enough." There was silence. Even the birds stopped singing. Obiora stood up slowly. His legs trembled. His eyes stung with tears. He looked at the bench, then at the door. He hadn't walked through a front door in years. With shaky steps, he limped toward her, one foot dragging behind the other. Mama Ifeoma waited, hands on her stick, face calm but unsure. When he finally stood in front of her, he couldn't speak. He was too ashamed. Dirty shirt, tattered trousers, unshaved beard, cracked lips. She stretched out her hand. He looked at it. Then he held it. Soft, warm, kind. My name is Obiora, he said, voice low. I didn't mean to stay here. I was just hungry that night. I wanted to go, but you kept feeding me. You made me feel human again. She nodded slowly, her blind eyes blinking gently. Obiora, she repeated. You are welcome here. That was the beginning of something new. Obiora became part of the house, not just in the shadows. Mama Ifeoma gave him an old room in the back where her late father used to sleep. He cleaned it up, fixed the leaking roof with an old bucket, and slept on the floor with one borrowed wrapper. He woke early every day to sweep. He fetched water. He even walked to the market once to buy onions and tomatoes. It wasn't easy with his limp, but he pushed through the pain. Every single day. At night, he sat with her on the veranda and told stories. Stories about his village in Anambra, about how he once worked in a mechanic shop in Owerri, about how he lost his parents in a fire and ended up begging in Lagos. Mama Ifeoma listened quietly. Sometimes she would laugh softly, other times she would wipe her eyes with the edge of her wrapper. You have suffered, Obiora, she would whisper. But suffering is not the end. Sometimes it's the beginning. One afternoon, Obiora did something that surprised her. He brought out her old sewing machine from the storeroom. It was dusty and rusty, but the body was still strong. He spent the whole day cleaning and oiling it, and even though he didn't know how to sew. You used to teach home economics, Abi? He asked her. She smiled, shocked. How did you know? I see the old papers and pins in your drawer. You fit still teach me small sewing? Her face lit up. It was the first time in years someone had asked her to teach anything. They started slowly. She would describe what he should do, and he would try it with his hands. The needle pricked him so many times, he began to wrap his fingers in cloth. But he didn't stop. He was learning again. But life is not always sweet. Just when you begin to smile, something will come to test your joy. One Sunday morning, while Obiora was sweeping outside, a black Toyota Corolla pulled up in front of the house. He paused, confused. They rarely had visitors. A woman stepped out, tall, fair-skinned, well-dressed. In her late 40s, she carried a small handbag and had expensive gold bangles on both wrists. She knocked twice. Obiora opened the gate cautiously. Yes, good morning, Ma, he said. She looked at him with disgust. And who are you? I stay here. I help Mama. You stay here? In whose house? Before he could answer, Mama Afeoma's voice came from inside. Ngozi, is that you? The woman stepped in, walking past Obiora like he was air. She was Ngozi, Mama Afeoma's niece. Obiora watched quietly as they hugged and talked. But something about Ngozi's voice gave him goosebumps. Auntie, why are you keeping a man here? She asked later, not even lowering her voice. You don't know him. He could be a thief, or worse. He's not a thief, Mama Ifeoma said calmly. He's helping me. Helping you do what? Sweep? Auntie, we can get someone professional. This man is squatting here. What will people say? Obiora sat in the back, listening, his heart breaking slowly. Ngozi stayed for 3 days. During that time, she treated Obiora like dirt. She wouldn't let him near the kitchen. She moved her bags around like he would steal them, and each time he entered the room, she would stop talking. On the last night, Obiora heard her shouting inside, I'm taking you to live with me in Abuja. This man will leave. He's not your family. Then Obiora heard something that shattered his chest. Fine, let him stay. I will go. The next morning, Obiora packed his things. He left a note by the sewing machine. Mama, thank you, but I don't want to cause trouble. I will be fine. He didn't take her torch. He didn't take her wrapper. He didn't take anything but the clothes he came with. As he limped down the street, the sun hot on his neck, he didn't look back. And for the first time since he met Mama Ifeoma, his eyes couldn't hold the tears anymore. He had finally found a home, a purpose, a second chance. And now it was gone. But fate wasn't finished with him yet, because what happened next would change everything. Sometimes, when things fall apart, they are actually falling into place. But for Obiora, as he walked down the dusty road with no clear direction, nothing felt like it was falling into place. His heart was heavy and his chest ached like it was being pressed by a block. He had lost too much already in life. First his parents, then his home, then his dignity. And now, the only woman who made him feel human again, Mama Ifeoma. As he passed through the market, people stared. Some covered their noses, others whispered. That madman, Don come again? He still dey roam? And him dey stay with that blind woman. No wedding, I hero. He ignored them. He just kept walking and walking until his legs couldn't take it anymore. He found a quiet corner near an abandoned kiosk and collapsed on the bare ground. There he laid down, one arm under his head, staring up at the blue sky through teary eyes. God, he whispered. You see me so? I no kill person. I just dey try survive. Not crime. He didn't know when he slept, but he knew when he woke up, because he woke up to the sound of a loud hey. He jumped up, confused. It was two uniformed men, task force officers. They pointed at him and shouted, Come here. Who told you to sleep here? Vagrant, move now. He tried to explain, but before he could say anything, one of them pushed him hard in the chest. He fell back, his elbows scraping the ground. Next time we catch you here, nacelle straight. He picked himself up slowly and limped away, holding his elbow. That was the moment Obiora decided he couldn't go back to the streets. He had to do something. Anything. That night, he found an old phone repair kiosk near the gutter and hid under it. But he didn't sleep. He sat with his back against the wall, thinking, shaking, whispering to himself, I can't live like this. I can't go back to begging. No, not again. Then something flashed in his mind. Mama Ifeoma, her voice. Suffering is not the end. Sometimes it's the beginning. And just like that, he made a decision. The next morning, Obiora returned to the house. He stood outside the gate for nearly 20 minutes, breathing hard, sweating, debating. Then he knocked. Once, twice. Silence. He knocked again. Finally, the gate opened. And there she was, Mama Ifeoma. Her blind eyes scanning the air, her cane tapping lightly, her mouth slightly open in confusion. Who is that? Obiora didn't speak. He just fell on his knees, right there, at her feet. I'm sorry, Mama, he cried. I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have left, but I didn't want to cause wahala. I didn't want to lose the little peace I found here. I miss this place. I miss you. Her lips trembled. Then slowly she bent down. With both hands, she held his shoulders. Obiora, my son, you should never run away from the people who care about you. You are not a burden. You are a blessing. Behind them, someone cleared their throat. They turned. It was Ngozi. Arms folded, eyebrows raised. So he's back in, just like that? Ngozi, Mama Ifeoma said firmly, I love you, you know that. But this is my house, and Obiora is staying. If you don't like it, you can go back to Abuja. Ngozi scoffed, but she didn't say a word. She picked up her bag and stormed back inside. That evening, Mama Ifeoma and Obiora sat on the veranda again. He told her everything that happened in the 2 days he was gone. The market, the kiosk, the slap from task force, the hunger, the pain. She held his hand the whole time. I may be blind, she said, but I see you clearer than most people. There is something in you, Obiora, something strong, something rare. From that day on, things changed. Obiora started fixing things around the house. Chairs, leaky taps, broken sockets. He even repaired the old fence gate. Mama Ifeoma introduced him to her church friend, Auntie Blessing, who owned a small tailoring shop. She agreed to let him assist and learn sewing properly. Every day he went there with a notepad and pencil. He wrote everything down. He practiced. He improved. Soon, he was sewing small shirts and wrapper blouses for the local women. One day, Auntie Blessing said something that shocked him. You know, say your hand day sweet, Obiora, you even better pass my apprentice way day here for 3 years. He smiled for the first time in weeks. It was a real smile, a deep one. But just when life began to smile back at him, a new problem showed up. One afternoon, a young man arrived at Mama Ifeoma's gate, well-dressed, smart, holding a brown file. Good afternoon, I'm Barrister Chike. I represent the family of late Mr. and Mrs. Spade Ezi. They are claiming rights to this property. The house, madam, might not be yours anymore. Obiora stepped outside just in time to hear the last sentence, and his heart stopped. Everything was about to be taken from them. Again. And this time, not even love or loyalty could stop it. The moment Obiora heard those words, the house might not be yours anymore. It was like cold water poured on his body. He rushed to Mama Ifeoma's side, gently holding her hand. Her face was frozen. She didn't speak. She didn't even move, but her fingers trembled in his. Barrister Chike, holding that brown file like a weapon, stepped forward with an air of finality. Madam, your late husband's extended family is claiming that this property was never legally transferred to you. They have documents from over 15 years ago. The matter is already in court. I advise you to seek legal representation immediately. Obiora's jaw clenched. She's blind, she's old, and they want to throw her out? Where was this family when she was eating Gary and using candles every night? The lawyer didn't flinch. I'm just doing my job. I'm sorry. We'll return next week. And just like that, he walked away, leaving a silent storm behind. That night, the house was too quiet. Mama Ifeoma didn't speak much. She just sat in her usual chair, fingers tracing the ridges of her cane, lips pressed tight. Obiora paced the living room like a man with fire in his chest. Mama, we won't let them take this house. You've lived here for years. You suffered in this house. You turned this house into a home again. They can't just show up and take it. She finally spoke, voice soft, almost fragile. Obiora, I'm tired. Maybe it's time to let go. Maybe this is how God wants to end my story. Obiora dropped to his knees beside her. No, Mama, this is not the end. Not like this. I know how it feels to lose everything, but this time we fight. Together. And so, they fought. Obiora borrowed clothes from a neighbor and went to the local legal aid office. He explained everything, twice. The young woman at the desk, Chioma, listened with care, then nodded. I'll help you, she said. It won't be easy, but we'll try. Every day for the next week, Obiora ran errands. He fetched old documents from the local council. He met old neighbors who knew Mama Ifeoma back when her husband was alive. He begged the community leaders to write statements. Meanwhile, the news spread around the area. People who once ignored Obiora now came by the house with support. We no go gree for wicked family O. Mama Ifeoma na our mama. Nobody go touch this house. On the day of the court hearing, Chioma arrived with her papers ready, but no one expected what happened next. In the courtroom, Barrister Chike presented the original documents, but Chioma stood up confidently. Your Honor, she said, we have evidence that Mr. Eze, before his death, left this house in a will for his wife, Mrs. Ifeoma Ize. The family conveniently ignored this because they never cared until they discovered the land value has gone up. She passed the judge a dusty envelope containing the handwritten will Obiora had found in an old Bible wrapped in a cloth deep in Mama Ifeoma's wardrobe. The courtroom went quiet. The judge read it slowly, then nodded. Case dismissed. This house remains the legal property of Mrs. Ifeoma Eze. Mama Ifeoma broke down into tears right there in the court. She didn't need to see. She could feel it. Obiora held her close, his face soaked in sweat and joy. It was victory, not just for her, but for them both. Weeks later, the house felt lighter, happier. People visited often now. Obiora's sewing business had grown so much, he rented a small shop opposite the church. He named it Mama's Hands, in honor of the woman who first reached out to him when he was nothing but a ghost in society. Mama Ifeoma smiled more these days. She no longer walked with just her cane. She walked with confidence. One evening, as they sat on the veranda again, she turned to him and asked softly, Obiora, what do you see when you look at this house now? He exhaled, eyes glistening. I see a home, Mama. I see where I was reborn. She touched his hand gently. And I see you. Even though I'm blind, I see the man you've become. Strong, kind, unbreakable. They sat in silence for a while, the sunset bathing the house in golden light. Then Mama Ifeoma whispered, You saved me, Obiora. No, Mama, you saved me first. If you love this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful African stories that touch your heart and lift your soul.